Hello, Gavin Palmer with Hero Looking for Group. So I've got a Discord server, and I share things there. And then Mr. Griswold asked for my summary on, I don't know exactly what, but it was about Tecumseh. I shared a link that I said I was researching while researching the second coming of Tecumseh. So he might be interested specifically in the second coming, or he might be interested in that documentary, um, that podcast. That basically these are people in the information war. And Mr. Griswold, he's interested in that. But I'll give you what I got. Tecumseh was a Shawnee uh, Native American. He ended up like fighting in the War of 1812 and dying in the War of 1812. Spoiler alert. Um, so I read the book, A Sorrow in Our Heart by Alan Eckert, and I didn't read, I listened to it, the audiobook, and that was about Tecumseh mostly. And then there was another one, maybe a companion audiobook called The Frontiersman, and it had Tecumseh as a character. Um, and I'm in Jacob's Ladder. I mentioned this book, and Yosef, he treated it like it was science fiction, right? And the author, he said everything that he wrote could be connected to a letter that he had read. And so, basically history is just hearsay. So, you know, maybe the number of witnesses and the character of the witness is important, and maybe Alan Eckert didn't, you know, consider all that. But I need to say that as a preface. Um, Tecumseh was born during a shooting star, um, and that's how he got his name. Um, and he would make predictions throughout his life that would come true. So he was a messenger. And so that audio link I shared, this person was made the same point. Tecumseh was a messenger, and a messenger is someone who has a message, and the creator provides signs to show that that person had a message to try and encourage people to listen. And Tecumseh did some interesting things, like um, he came into a culture and improved it. In that culture, they would torture their enemies, and they would kill women and children. And Tecumseh ended up, and it was like an honor culture based on being a warrior, and it was a spiritual culture. And so Tecumseh earned his reputation as a warrior and as a prophet or a messenger, and became someone who would say he would require his tribe and his people and the people he worked with to change the way they behaved if they wanted to continue to be with him. And so he improved their culture and got rid of, or he worked to get rid of torture. He didn't allow it, uh, you know, in his presence. It just could not happen. Um, and he was really smart. He he learned English. He learned how to write English. Um, he was a great hunter. Anyways, one of the big uh, like prophecies was that he tried to bring all the Native Americans together uh, to fight the Shimanaise, or the white man, just like the white man had brought all their tribes together and all the states were brought together. He decided to do the same with the Native Americans, and he told them to look for a sign. In this book by Alan Eckhart, he um, he said, look for a sign in the sky, and then take your stick, your bundle of sticks. I think it was 30, and you throw one in the fire every night. And once all the sticks are thrown in the fire, then I'm gonna stomp my feet, and the earth is gonna shake. And so there was a giant earthquake, the New Madrid earthquake. You can look it up. It changed. He said it would change the direction of the waters, and anyways, there was other things like an eclipse that he gave. Yeah. Anyways, he I think that so. My opinion is that you know, there are people who are messengers, and they are able to do prophecy, and um, they are there to help improve. But it seemed like his story and the story of the Native American people is not very good. Didn't hasn't ended well, perhaps. So uh, I found it interesting in one of the books, The Frontiersman. At the very end, they mentioned that there's a prophecy of the second coming of Tecumseh, and there would be a city of cities, and none of the tribes would there would be peace, and there would be no war among the tribes. And so I think that's connected with other stories and prophecies. Um, and I've heard that, for example, when we die, we will all have a second coming to some degree, right? Um, or maybe not everyone, but at least at least some, but hopefully everyone if you're a universalist. Um, and uh, yeah, I like to think we're going to help build the city of cities and help create the peace on earth. But this this link I shared in my Discord server, this guy who was talking or being interviewed was the author of Red Prophet, and I haven't read that, but I'm not sure I want to. I don't know. He's an interesting guy. What comes to mind with this author is the verse. There's some verses in the Old Testament about do not suffer a sorcerer to live, and I asked about it in Jacob's Ladder Discord server, and he's saying it means more like you know, do not support the sorcerer and sorcery. So like don't give money to someone to do magic for you, something like that. And then, well, what is sorcery? Sorcery is trying to bend God to your will. So, and that's what it seems like, um, I've tried to do that in the past. And this author of this Red Prophet book, he was saying, I am the second coming of Tecumseh. That's what he was saying. And he was saying he was going to go to Washington and stomp his feet. There was going to be an earthquake. Um, and he wanted, I mean, the reason I like him, he seemed kind of serious, but the reason I'm skeptical is because he does seem like he's trying to do the magic and bend God. Uh, because it's like when you, yeah, the way that you end up doing prophecy, right? There's a way to do it where you're trying to bend God to your will as a person versus um, receiving information from God and just being a repeater to share it with others. So, um, yeah, that's my take. That's my summary. Um, yeah, I could definitely imagine it would be good to have Tecumseh um, come back. It would would be good to have justice for, everyone, including, the Native Americans who were mistreated, and they weren't perfect, right? There are good people, like great people within like every group or tribe, and there are, terrible people within every group or tribe. There's a spectrum. I think we have to get, we have to go about forming groups and tribes and identifying the great people, the righteous people, and incorporate them into the ideal justice systems. We haven't done that yet. This will be a necessity for peace on earth. And the ultimate question in my mind is, will there be miracles and or magical thinking? Like, can to what degree can a person's relationship with God, um, like improve and change, right? So, like, would would I be able to give prophecy? Uh, and another question would be, would I be able to give prophecy without, you know, the help from like plants? Like, and did Tecumseh give prophecy without the help from plants? And did Moses, was he able to do his thing without the help from plants? I mean, there was this burning bush, and Tecumseh had his pipe. Um, so yeah, the only time I've ever seen the future is when I was using some psilocybin, cannabis, and tobacco. Uh, yeah, I had, I had eaten psilocybe cubensis, and then had smoked a lot of kind of cheap cannabis, and I was going through cigarettes. Uh, I found it really interesting that I could take a cigarette and I could, in one inhale, after doing psilocybin. Psilocybin does crazy things to your mind, but I could take a whole cigarette and I could pull it from one end all the way to the butt in one intake. Um, and I was intentionally using the cigarettes to kind of twist my experience. And I was with some friends on my front porch, and the I had a friend pull up in a car, and he was walking up the porch to come up to where I was sitting, and and I heard glass break, and I looked up and I saw blood on his face, and this was a little bit startling because I had never had this experience before. Like I'd never really hallucinated or had a vision, and I said, "Hey, DJ, are you all right?" He's like, he started kind of laughing. He said, "Yeah, man, wow, what's up?" I said, "Oh, I'm just tripping." And I dismissed it. And then later that night, he ended up crashing his truck into a greenhouse. And, you know, if I were to tell you right now that he had died, that would have one effect. But the truth is he didn't die, and I'm glad. But he did, and he didn't have his seatbelt on. So, and he passed out at the wheel. As he passed out, the car turned and he fell over into his seat. And as he went into that greenhouse, the greenhouse went through the front of the truck, through his windshield. And so that was strange for me. And I'm reminded of Paul Stamets going on Joe Rogan and having a vision. And he interpreted his vision of, oh, it's going to be the end of the world because I saw a field and there was all these cows that were bloated and dead. And what ended up happening is that there had ended up being a flood and he had ended up going past the pasture where all these cows had died, and he saw what he had seen in his vision. I guess weeks later he saw in real life, and so you can have visions and not even know what to do with them. So, um, maybe the plants, they can, they gave me the experience to know that it is possible to have visions. But then I had another vision with Salvia divinorum, and I met someone there who told me that um, he said you're not supposed to be here yet, and he said that. So perhaps there's a maturing that a person has to do spiritually in their relationship with God, so that they can handle the visions and receive them at the right time and the right way, um, and they have been prepared. So yeah, I I hope that God will um, give us a messenger, and it doesn't have to be me. And in our modern times, if God gives us a messenger, um, it's going to go viral on social media. So, um, and when they say the cloud rider, it's like, well, what is the cloud? I'm I put software in the cloud, and when I'll end up putting this video in the cloud, and I guess that's the word we use. Um, so yeah, it would be nice to get a messenger. You know, there's all these stories about messengers in the past, and a lot of people don't believe in those stories. So if you know, that's where I tend to lean agnostic, except for the experiences I've had, and uh, and so I have empathy for the atheists they are believers. They are not agnostic. But yeah, the question is like, well, how does the prophecy work? Because it's like I don't want. Yeah, it's like the the you can't predict a eclipse, right? Because I guess the eclipses are predictable now with our science, and so the things we can't predict would be like earthquakes and tornadoes and hurricanes and volcanoes. Um, those are those are examples. Then there's something about the waters being able to split. Like, so maybe a messenger could predict waters behaving in some strange way that is unusual. So yeah, my my approach is to just have a relationship with God. Create a body of work. Uh, hopefully, cooperating with people, creating a body of work in the right way. Like I'm using version control, networking with people in the right way. You know, the cutting off the branches that don't provide fruit, and you know, and then maybe in 20 years, um, after there is this body of work, then there will be uh, some events that are prophesied that would point at the message and the messenger. Um, Ideally, it would be messages and messengers, and it would point at um, righteous people so that we can have justice. Because it's hard to know who's righteous unless you're getting, uh, unless you're receiving signs. So I do think uh, I tend to be righteous, but I also know I'm not perfect. So, But I think having a relationship with God can end up improving a person. So, and the only way you could become perfect is if you have a perfect relationship with God. And then for me, I have people that I'm bonded to, and um, and so I need God to work through those people as well. Um, so, and I want to form good relationships with with many good people trying to do good work who want to help. They want to become better people, and they want me to become a better person. So, and I'm serious about that. Like, go look for people who are serious about that, and you will have a hard time because either uh, they have the will and they don't have a way, or um, they just don't have the will. It's there needs to be some competence, like technical competence. Like you have to actually be a cloud writer. You actually have to know how to use the clouds. Like for me, the clouds are software in the cloud, and I'm still learning how to do this. So there can be other cloud writers as well. I happen to be connected to a guy who's got this thing called a convective heat engine that creates clouds in order to provide a predictable supply of water, of clean water, which is necessary for peace on Earth. Like there's thousands of things that are necessary for peace on Earth, but clean water is up there, and waste management is right up there too. They're directly connected. I was I'm thankful for we're in an amazing situation, and I hope it works out. We do have some amazing people in this world, and it's just maybe it's playing out. The play is happening, um, and the conductor is omniscient and loving and guiding uh, many people on paths that are going to cooperate and coordinate. And the invitation is to become one of those people, to have that relationship. Uh, I hope I can encourage that. And even if we don't cooperate and coordinate, which I think would be part of the plan, uh, like each person is on a path and has developed a certain amount and can handle a certain amount. And so you have to learn how to crawl before you can walk, before you can run.